One.
Thank you. Good morning. Recognizing a quorum, I am calling this public meeting of the Cannabis Control Commission to order at 10 a.m. on February 10th, 2022. This meeting is being recorded. Before I review today's agenda, I have a few brief comments, after which I will offer the opportunity to my fellow commissioners to make opening statements if they so wish. First, I'd like to acknowledge our staff and our commissioners for their efforts in preparing for today's meeting. This was a quick turnaround from our last meeting in January, and I appreciate the hard work involved in a short period of time. Particular thanks to Haley Penske and Grace O'Day for producing today's meeting. Next, I'd like to acknowledge and thank the Joint Committee on Cannabis Policy, and specifically its co-chairs, Senator Chang Diaz and Representative Donahue, for reporting out of committee H174, S72, an act relative to social equity and host community agreements in the cannabis industry. In keeping with Commission policy, I will not comment on the specifics of the bill other than noting that it addresses three key issues that we have asked the legislature for help on, specifically social equity funding, HCA clarification, and the technical fix required to enable municipalities to opt into social consumption if they so desire. I recognize that nothing is certain and that there are many steps left before this bill becomes law, and we stand ready to continue to collaborate with the legislature and the executive branch going forward. I am grateful for the continued legislative attention to these key issues. Finally, I'd like to make a few brief comments on a subject that, due to the scope and pace of Commission activities, has probably not gotten the attention it deserves. Specifically, the Commission's commitment to make the Massachusetts cannabis industry the greenest and most energy efficient in the country. I am proud of the regulations developed under the leadership of former Commissioner Kay Doyle with significant staff effort that called for the submission of a conservation plan as part of the license application process for cultivation licenses and the annual reporting of energy consumption by those licensees. I am pleased to report that there has been full compliance and support for these requirements on the part of industry. And as a result, we are accumulating and beginning to analyze a rich data set that will allow us to track energy consumption over time and identify and share best practices both across Massachusetts industry, as well as with other states who have indicated their interest in following our lead on this matter. My thanks to our Director of Licensing, Kyle Potvin, and his team for ensuring compliance and creating the continuously updated database that will be a source of ongoing progress to a greener future. Thank you. Let me ask my fellow commissioners if they wish to make opening comments, starting with Commissioner Camargo.
Sure. Good morning, team and Chairman. Chairman, thank you for those comments. I enjoyed those comments today. Key points
as opposed to other times.
Key points and key issues, but ditto on the committee that was able to move some of the legislation that we've been watching. And of course, also I want to give kudos to the other legislators and leadership at the State House. I know this is a joint effort at the State House, so kudos to them all. I also wanted to just acknowledge that this month we celebrate Black History Month. And each year it's a way to recognize the contributions and achievements of Black Americans, as well as present opportunities for people to learn about the effects of racism and how to challenge negative stereotypes that plague the Black communities to this day. Celebrating Black History Month allows us to pause and remember the stories so we can honor Black Americans and their achievements. So I just want to say happy Black History Month. Sometimes we say it's only 1 month, but we should be celebrating it throughout the year, right? Every day, and taking that time to think about what it means and how do we move our communities forward and how do we have collaborative conversations across, all ethnicities and party lines. So I just want to remind folks about that today. I want to say thank you to our staff for all the work that they do. Every month where we prepare for these meetings, it just reminds me of how hard they work, and looking forward to today's meeting.
Thank you very much. Appreciate those comments, Commissioner. Commissioner Concepcion, would you like to make some comments?
I would. Thank you so much. Commissioner Camargo, thank you for those words and for taking a moment to acknowledge the significance of this month, Black History Month. As the first and hopefully not the last African-American commissioner on the Cannabis Control Commission, it's really meaningful, specifically for the work that we're doing for communities of color, Black communities that are still grappling with a lot of the impact around the war on drugs. And we talk about that a lot here. So it's a privilege to be in this position. I talk about that pretty frequently, but it's not lost on me, what I represent, my own experiences, and the work that we have in front of us and ahead of us. I also want to ditto Chairman Hoffman. It's been a short span of time from our last meeting to this meeting, and yet so much has happened. I just want to say thank you to our counterparts in the State House, both the Senate, the House. It's really promising, the movement and the momentum that is building around these issues that we know are so important and that we have been very, very vocal about, social equity fund, HCAs, so on and so forth. So and social consumption, even in our last meeting. So I just want to reiterate, just saying thank you. I know that there is a lot of work ahead. I know that there is a lot of work between the two bodies, and I just look forward to see the next steps. I also want to thank staff, specifically Kyle Poppin and his team, specifically around security. Every time I'm in our monthly meeting, I think that the public has probably become aware of the fact that I spend a particular amount of time and attention towards the security plans that are submitted by our applicants and licensees. And Kyle and his team are always on top of it. And I just appreciate them so much for answering my questions, for being very thorough in their work, and for continuing to work with our licensees to make sure that their security provisions are up to par and in compliance with our regulations.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Concepcion. Commissioner Roy, would you like to make some comments?
I would. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to thank my fellow commissioners for their important opening comments as well. As always, I want to thank the commission staff for their hard work, not only helping to prepare for public meeting, but all month long. And I do want to ditto Commissioner Concepcion for the help I received from Kyle Poppin this month and every month. Getting ready for meeting is extraordinary. They do a tremendous job. And also, as you may have heard in the news, for the first time, cannabis excise tax has exceeded alcohol. And although this is consumer driven, this is in large part to the extraordinary work of the commission securely regulating and stringently testing products. Maybe, and this is anecdotally speaking, this is an indicator that some folks are leaving the illicit shadow market into the safely regulated one. I also want to take this time to thank my fellow commissioners for their meaningful and robust discussion and vote we had at last month's public meeting surrounding OUI and drug driving. And although the legislative process takes time, I am proud of the commission for making a unanimous statement and weighing in on this issue. In my personal capacity, I am hopeful we continue this important conversation and continue to look for meaningful solutions to this public safety issue. And finally, I am wearing red in honor of American Heart Month and Women's Heart Health, and also for Valentine's Day, sending much love and thanks to our staff. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Best part about going last is I can just say ditto to everything everybody else already said.
Okay, I'll change the order. I'll reverse the sequence next month.
No, this is fine. This is fine.
Unless you prefer it this way.
No, this is fine. Mr. Chair, thank you for your comments about the really successful efforts that are still underway up on Beacon Hill with respect to the legislative issues that we have a great deal of interest in. Thank my colleagues for their acknowledgement of Black History Month. As everybody probably knows, I'm a big baseball geek, so February usually allows me the time to reflect on Negro League baseball and the incredible talent that played in those days that didn't have a chance to play at the major league level. Always mindful about Valentine's Day because I usually have 3 women in my house that I need to take out and celebrate Valentine's Day with. But I also, I want to bring up a point. And again, we always thank staff for their great work. As everybody knows, we did not have a meeting in December, and the expectation could be, well, everything kind of quieted down and people, had a chance to enjoy the holidays, and I'm sure that was the case. But I was also encouraged to hear of a lot of the extra efforts that staff undertook, having that break from meeting preparation to do some, to undertake some efforts within their own departments that they don't usually have time for. I know there was probably a lot of that type of work across departments. I send kudos to the licensing department who took advantage of that break to buckle down and look at some work that they needed to accomplish that sometimes they just don't have the time for. So always appreciate the great work of our team and thank everybody for their continued efforts.
Thank you, Commissioner. If we could move on to the agenda, please, Grace. Thank you. So let me just go through this briefly. We have one set of minutes for approval, which is from our previous meeting on January 20th, 2022. The executive director's report, the highlight of these meetings is going to be next. And I've seen the slides that Sean's going to go through. I think it'll be a very interesting and informative report. We have our normal licensing activities, including 5 changes of ownership, 52 renewals, 12 staff recommendations on final licenses, and if my math is correct, 22 provisional licenses to be considered by the commission. We have only one topic for commission discussion and vote, and that's discussion and decision about whether to continue withhold minutes from 3 sets of executive sessions that we've had, and that's something that we introduced as a policy several months ago, and it's just a continuation of best practice to continue to review the rationale for holding those withholding those minutes and deciding whether those the rationale still is in place. So we'll get to that. That's it for commission discussion and votes today. A couple of other comments, and then we'll get started. First, apropos some of the comments that my fellow commissioners made, I do believe this is going to be a much shorter meeting than last month's marathon. So my guess is we'll probably be done somewhere in the 2 o'clock time frame, maybe sooner. But with respect to that, we'll take a break in the morning, and then I think we'll assess where we are around lunchtime and collectively decide whether we want to power through or take another break, take a lunch break. We'll see where we are. As always, if any of my fellow commissioners would like to take a break at any time, just raise your hand, and obviously we'll accommodate that request. And then the last thing, I'd like to ask again of my fellow commissioners, could you please ask for the floor rather than beginning to speak? And that's not just a quorum, but it also allows Grace and Haley to make sure that whoever is about to speak is live and on camera. So I'd appreciate it if you'd all do that as we go through this. Let's start with minutes. As I said, we have minutes for one meeting, January 20th, 2022. I'd like to thank our Commission Secretary, Commissioner Stebbins, as well as Christopher Smith. That was a marathon meeting, as you all recall, in January, and turning around in a very short period of time, a set of minutes, is great work and really appreciated. Can I ask my fellow commissioners, have you had a chance to review the minutes from January 20th, 22? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make a comment and then an observation about the
Sure.
minutes. First of all, I also want to echo your sentiment. I want to thank Commissioner Secretary Stebbins for all his hard work, and Christopher Smith. There's 50 pages of minutes this month. It reads like a book. I read them. They do an amazing job, and I want to thank them for that. But I did notice a discrepancy on page 50. The last vote for adjournment, it has Chairman Hoffman as a no. And if I was a betting person, I'd say you were a yes, because that was a marathon meeting, the last vote.
Yeah, I think I probably did vote for adjournment. So
no, I think there's just a little discrepancy on the adjournment vote on the very end.
I'll ask for a motion including that change. Thank you, Commissioner Roy. But let me continue. Have the commissioners had, other than Commissioner Roy, have you all had a chance to review the minutes? Are there any questions, comments, or suggested edits from the other commissioners? Okay, then could I ask please for a motion to approve the minutes from January 20th, 2022, subject to the one edit suggested by Commissioner Roy? Can I have such a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
I'm sorry. That was Commissioner Camargo, or it's Commissioner Concepcion seconded?
Roy.
Oh, Commissioner Roy seconded. Sorry, thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Stebbins made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Conception, Roy Stebbins, and Hoffman, with none opposed. Thank you very much. And again, my thanks to Christopher Smith and to Commission Secretary Stebbins. Really appreciate it. Hopefully the minutes from today's meeting will not be 50 pages, but we'll see. Okay, let's move on. Mr. Executive Director, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
You ready? You ready for your report?
I am.
And please proceed. Thank you.
So we'll begin as always with some data from our licensing platform as well as other sources, which does hopefully indicate a bit of our workload here at the agency and provide some insight into what may be coming to future commission agendas. So you'll see here, there are 5 applications awaiting their first review. Those are applications that have been filed. We've not reviewed them yet, or they're new applications that are for new license types or new license issuance. We also have a number of applications that are in a different queue, which is that they've been resubmitted, and I'll get into some of those data points later on in my report. We also have 1,168 applications, which is definitely not an accurate number. Let me clarify that. Before you today, you have, I believe, Mr. Chairman, you indicated it was 22 applications for your consideration today. So there are 28 applications that are awaiting a supplemental review. As I noted, the 5 applications that are awaiting their first review are new submissions. Those 28 applications have actually been reviewed by our staff, have been reopened for additional information that might be necessary in order for us to deem that application complete. And lastly, there's 98,829 certified active patients in our medical use of marijuana program. This slide here, and you can see that the big change that I've made is really try to call your attention to license volume. That is 85% of the total applications in some way, shape, or form in our licensing portal are either withdrawn or incomplete. That is the vast majority of this 9,731 total are not applications pending before the commission or pending as a workload matter for us. There are 247 applications that are pending. Also, 10% of the total application volume are now licenses. So the commission has considered them. That includes commission staff review as well as commissioner consideration. So just I thought the 9,731 grand total looks like a lot, but again, you'll see that 85% of those are not matters that are pending before us or have previously been pending before us. So 95% of the applications are not on our plate, so to speak.
Thank you.
This slide here is of those 1,021 licenses issued to date, a breakdown of the license type. Again, as I note on a monthly basis, the traditional supply chain is the vast majority. So 393 marijuana retailers, 309 cultivators, and 232 product manufacturers, as well as 18 testing labs. So I think that does represent the traditional supply chain. We're also seeing hopefully a continued growth in things like marijuana courier, marijuana delivery operator, micro businesses, as well as craft cooperatives. So those other license types, we'd certainly like to see more volume there, and certainly I'd like to have them within the supply chain. But those, again, the vast majority are in the traditional license type.
Mr. Executive Director, I apologize for both interrupting and asking a question I've asked multiple times before. But can you give us an update on where things stand with respect to research? Are we seeing any activity? What's your kind of observation and prognosis on that license category?
Yeah, and the answer isn't going to change too dramatically. It's not. We haven't seen obviously the progress we'd like to see. There is some ability within your existing license type to do R&D. So if folks were looking to do, especially if you're interested in protecting any potential trade secrets. R&D is something that you can possibly do in your, say, product manufacturing or cultivation license type. If you are going to attempt to try different growing methods, for instance, or different extraction methods, there's always the risk that you would want to waste that product and use it under your existing license type, because as you recall, the research facility is really a 2-part license type. We would license the facility itself and the folks that would own and control that facility, but then also approve the research permit for the research type that you're intending to pursue. That research, given the public interest of what we're doing, would be available to the public. So I think that's one observation I'm seeing, is that Some folks that may want to pursue some research and development opportunities may not see that as a viable license type for them. And I think as the federal conversation continues to evolve, we want to be well poised and well positioned to contribute to that if things start to relax. I don't have any prognostication as to when that might occur, but that's just some anecdotal evidence that I'm getting from the industry folks that I may communicate with periodically.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any other questions before we move on? Please go ahead, Mr. Executive Director.
I think we're good with this slide here. So this next slide, I wanted to just call your attention to another data point. I apologize for the, it's a little in your face. That said, there are 355 entities that have commenced their operations. That does represent 30% of our total license volume, which I think is an encouraging sign. I also pulled some data this morning just to compare year over year. And so February of last year, the 355 number represents an increase of 163 entities having commenced their operations. So over the last calendar year, we've seen 163 new entities begin to conduct business here in Massachusetts. So I think that's certainly a testament to those entities getting ready and getting advancing through the licensing process, but also a testament to our staff level of preparation, analysis, evaluation, and ultimately their work to get them open as well.
Great.
This next slide here is a bit of our workflow. As I noted earlier, there's 5 applications that are new and pending before us that need an initial review. We've reopened 183 applications. So those are folks that we have taken a look at that application. It does require additional information to be compliant with the regulations. And we provide applicants several opportunities to submit that information to us. So there is a chance that within that 183 number, an application may be reopened several times. There are 42 applications that were waiting a third-party response. Those applications have been deemed complete. We're within the 90-day window of review, but those third-party responses are cities and towns within which they intend to be located, as well as our third-party background check vendor. There, as we noted earlier, there's 22 applications available and pending before you today, and applications considered by the Commission to date are 1,168. Those are issued licenses plus pre-certifications. So it's a total of 1,420. Those applications considered by the Commission year over year, again, that data analysis that I briefly conducted this morning, that's an increase of 356 over the last calendar year. So that does give you a sense of our annual activity year to date. I'm sorry, year over year, excuse me.
Thank you. Any questions for the Executive Director? Please keep going then.
Sure. This slide here is a bit of a breakdown of their status, the license application status when they submit. 255 licenses have utilized the MTC priority status. 104 entities or applications have utilized their economic empowerment status. 480 applications have been granted expedited review, and there's been 581 general applicants. On the right-hand side table is a breakdown of status based on the expedited review and how they've qualified for that status. So you'll see that the majority, 200, have been expedited based on their status as social equity program participants. This is the beginning of the data heavy slides. So you'll see this is the economic empowerment status, social equity program participant, or DBE status. The goal here is to bring these numbers downward through the table and get them as close to commence operations and eventually commence operations as close to possible, excuse me. You'll see that 83 total applications have utilized the economic empowerment status. The majority, though, are in the pre-certification for delivery license types. Again, you see there's 200 social equity program participants. The majority, 116, are in the pre-certification for delivery license types. DBE status is scattered a bit throughout the table, but 96 have secured provisional licenses and 34 have actually commenced their operations. And then all the way to the right, you see the bottom there, 37% of our total license types are in one of these categories. So that's a number we're going to continue to track, but it does represent progress. And that we weren't tracking this. This slide was not available a calendar year ago. So we'll continue to look at it month over month, year over year.
Great, thank you. My favorite slide.
So this slide here, again, data heavy, and I think that's a good thing. We like to monitor information, especially as we can learn from it. You see we have 6 marijuana couriers that have commenced their operations here in the Commonwealth. We also have 83 entities that have secured their pre-certification. And some of those folks, 9 of them are pending in the application phase. So that is the segue. They go from pre-certification. I often describe that as being a pre-approval for a mortgage. And then you can go shop for your location, shop for investors, other things, and use that hopefully as momentum that then allows you to continue building out your final and total application for licensure. You see here that there's 8 commenced operations for independent testing labs, as well as 2 final licenses. A little bit of breaking news. I think today we could issue another commenced operations, bring our total to 9, which is obviously a good thing to see. That would leave 1 final license as well as 5 provisionals in the independent testing lab phase. And credit to our staff as well. Those are not easy licenses to inspect and monitor. And so it is a labor-intensive process for us as well as the labs, to their credit. 73 marijuana cultivators have commenced their operations. There are 171 provisional licenses. Worth watching here is these are expensive build-outs sometimes. They're labor-intensive as well, so there could be some sluggishness as far as provisional to final. Once you're in a final license phase as a cultivator, you begin to introduce your plants, and that transition from final license to commence operations can be and should be an efficient one. Marijuana delivery operators, you see there's 14 final licenses. So those folks, as they continue to build out, there's a warehouse component to that. So that does require some lead time and some construction potentially, as well as the acquisition of vehicles and other things for fleet services. So obviously like to see folks go from provisional to final there as well. And then pointing out as well, there's 63 pre-certifications that have been issued to date. Going further down the slide, you see there's 60 product manufacturers that have commenced their operations and another 124 provisional licenses. Advancing yet again, 197 retailers. We're closing on that 200 number, as well as 158 provisional licenses in 7 finals. So happy to take any questions you may have. I realize again, this is a data heavy slide.
That's all right. Commissioner Camargo, please go ahead.
Can you elaborate on the marijuana transporter with other existing ME license?
Sure. So I would describe that as being akin to a distributor license, but it's tied to if you have another license. So let's say you are a marijuana product manufacturer. You can essentially add that on to your license to be a third-party transporter. You can distribute between, so if you are entity A, you can transport from entity B to entity C. It doesn't have to be your license. There's also the standalone transportation license that's allowed to transfer B to B, but they're not a license type. They're not an alternative license type. So one entity could simultaneously be a product manufacturer as well as a transporter. And it's essentially an extension of that license type. As you can see, there's a handful of them. There's also a good number and a growing number of third-party transporters that are just, they're distributors.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Roy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much, Mr. Executive Director. This is really rich in information. And my question is around pre-certification. I'd like to know more about that. I see that we have a marijuana courier and marijuana delivery operator. Do all license types, are they available for pre-certification? And how do folks know about it? And the reason I ask is you made the analogy to having that pre-approval for a mortgage. And if someday marijuana becomes federally legal, I can see a lot of importance around pre-certification in banking down the road. So just curious, do all license types, would they be able to qualify, like an independent testing lab for pre-certification? Or I think they already are actually, but do all license types qualify, and how do we let folks know about pre-certification?
Sure. So it's a pre-certification is available for exclusively delivery, and eventually, should social consumption applications become available, it'd be exclusively available for those application types. It was an observation. It's a bit of a pilot in some ways. It was an observation that one of the hurdles and one of the barriers to entry for smaller operators especially was the requirement to have a location as well as the ability to have investors. And one of the things that was brought to our attention and suggested to us was if I could have something that says I'm essentially pre-qualified and pre-certified, that would help me secure locations and find locations, as well as bring it to a city or town official and say I'm well on my way to getting a license. And it also, just to shed some light on what we ask, it's purely disclosures. So information is shared with us. You are pre-qualified or pre-certified, excuse me, and I should stop using those interchangeably.
Right.
You're pre-certified based on your disclosures. So we've not conducted a full background check. We do rely on the disclosures made to us. And it then hopefully allows those applicants to go forward and use it as they might need it. So find locations, find investors are the two most common reasons folks would use that pre-certification phase. They are still required to submit an application to us for full licensure. And that's something obviously we're seeing, and folks are using that momentum, but it's not available for every license type, to answer your question.
So just to follow up then, it's not to be confused with expedited review. That's a separate, completely separate path, if you will, lane, than pre-certification. And pre-certification can be received prior to an HCA, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Other questions? Please keep going, Mr. Executive Director.
Sure. So this next slide is a breakdown based on cultivation indoor versus or compared to outdoor. You'll see here there's 62 indoor cultivators that have commenced their operations, as well as 11 outdoor cultivators that have commenced their operations. Those 8 final licenses in outdoor cultivation is in fact expedited, and that does obviously carry through the inspectional phase as well. I think we're going to see some momentum there as far as moving folks. You want to move to the right-hand side of this table, which is you want to go from pending application all the way to commence operations. I think we'll start to see that number trickle upward as far as those 8 moving into that 11 category. But again, you see there's still a pretty significant majority of indoor cultivation, which I think speaks to primarily the climate here in Massachusetts. Again, I'm trying to call your attention to an interesting data point, at least for me, is we do authorize through our license types up to 100,000 square feet of canopy, but almost 60% of our licenses are commenced operations. So I should note the 59% represents the commenced operations row here. And the 13, 19, and 11 up through tier 3 is, I was surprised by that data point. There's also a total of 2.2 million square feet, authorized square feet of canopy that has commenced their operations. There's another 4.5 million or so that are in the provisional license phase.
Thanks. By the way, thank you for that slide. That's a really useful slide, and it's great to see that, you know, one of our mandates, legislative mandates, is to promote small farmers, and it's good to see the concentration among those lower tiers. So thank you for that slide and that analysis.
So moving to thank you, of course, the MTC data points. Some information I want to call your attention to is you'll see here there are 91 entities that have commenced their operations. Those are vertically integrated medical use of marijuana licenses, marijuana treatment centers. That represents an increase. Again, I pulled some data this morning, year over year of 15. So we've increased or expanded the availability of medical marijuana by 15 entities over the last calendar year. Moving to the right-hand side table, you see there's 98,829 certified active patients. A data point there is obviously that number expanded significantly in 2020. We saw it balloon from, give or take order of magnitude about 60,000 patients to where it is today. The year-over-year increase is about 4,800 patients. So we're still seeing an increase, not dramatically as we did during the 2020 phase, but these patients are also renewing because this is an annual registration or annual certification. And I think that's something worth acknowledging as well as tracking is are folks re-upping and renewing in the medical program? Are they finding value? Similarly, are they finding access? And I think we can answer affirmatively of both questions. These next 3 slides are some maps that do indicate based on throughout county in Massachusetts where licenses are located. So this is total licenses. You'll see here that 235 licenses have been issued in Worcester County, 135 in Middlesex County, and then it's a bit of a smattering throughout the rest of the Commonwealth, but those are the 2 highest volumes that you can see. This next slide is retailers and where available sales would be. And again, this is total license type. This is not open. This is total licenses. But again, you see there's 75 in Worcester County, 66 in Middlesex County. And just for observation's sake, there's 25 in Suffolk County.
Although that 25 represents a pretty significant increase over the last, let's say, 6 months or so, when that number was probably in the single digits, if I remember correctly.
I think that's fair. And you're seeing increased licensing activity at the local level, especially with the likes of Somerville, Cambridge, Boston, et cetera. So there's a lot of activity there, which is naturally going to have an effect on license application volume with us.
Sure. Thank you.
This slide here is MTCs and its total licenses by county. I think Commissioner Roy, you had a question last week about are there any counties without facilities? That answer is no. Every county does have an open facility and therefore would imply access. Now, granted, some of these counties are massive. So as far as geographic access is concerned, so I don't want to pretend like there's one in every corner. I don't think that's the truth at all. But every county does have access to a medical marijuana treatment center. So that concludes the data aspect of the report. I'm happy to take any questions you may have, or of course could move on in the report with just a few more slides for your information.
So any questions before we do move on? Please keep going. Thank you.
Sure. So I wanted to update the commission. It was March of last year that the commission received a report commissioned by the commission, and it was UMass alongside our department, our research department, and Dr. Julie Johnson presented some updated information relative to disproportionately impacted areas. There was ample conversation. We've done some work since then. We've convened a working group internally of representative of a variety of our staff from different departments. We've also concluded and conducted some stakeholder meetings with external parties, and the next phase of gathering as much information as possible about the impact of the existing 29 cities and towns, as well as the potential to expand that list or modify that list. The next phase of it is to request public comment and feedback. So that information, that report, as well as the topic, is now available. The information is on our website. I would encourage anyone to visit. There's a splash or available information right on the main page of our website. Through March 4th of this year, we're seeking public comment on that DIA list. And again, I think I want to compliment our staff as well as the commissioners for your activity and your interest in this. I just wanted to update the public as well as solicit any feedback folks may have. This is a big, broad topic. It's certainly a critical one. There's a lot of information in the study and the research, but I wouldn't discourage anyone from submitting public comment to us. Even if you just have thoughts, suggestions, ideas, come one, come all, we certainly want to hear it. So wanted to use my report to encourage folks to submit comment, as well as obviously take any questions or feedback you may have on our work to date.
Commissioner Roy.
I just want to add a comment to that because I was able to participate like my fellow commissioners. Really meaningful conversation, the beginning of a conversation around this, not only to discuss adding communities, but what we can do better with the communities that are already established as DIAs. So I just wanted to add that's also part of the conversation, are the things, tools we can add to the toolbox for the existing communities.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Please go ahead.
So at our last meeting, I updated you on our FY22 as well as FY23 request in the statewide budget. Obviously, since then, I think as commissioners alluded to earlier, it's been a busy intervening couple of weeks. We did get word from the State House on the beginning of the budget process. I will update you here based on what we've reviewed, absorbed, as well as where we may go from here. So as you know, in FY22, we have a total availability of $15.7 million amongst our various accounts. And that's 12.9 in our main admin account, as well as 2.7 in our medical use of marijuana program account. Our request, our growth request from the legislature as well as the administration, was for 15.8 in that admin account, $1 million for public awareness or public education campaign, and then about 3.3 for medical use of marijuana program, representing a total of just about $20.2 million. House 2, which emerged from the administration in late January, represents a total of $16.5 million. So the difference between the request and where we'd like to, the request and what we've gotten to date in House 2 was about $3.7 million less than what we were seeking. The importance there is that it's obviously short of what we were seeking. I would also just caution everybody, including our staff as well as commissioners, it's the first step in a pretty long process. And obviously there's plenty of advocacy left for us to do at the State House to try to seek the increase that we think we need. And just to shed some light on where we are at in this process, still the House Ways and Means Committee as well as the Senate Ways and Means Committee, and then full branches, House and Senate, have the opportunity to opine and offer their versions of the budget. We will continue to advocate to them, as well as it returning back to the administration once they're able to reconcile any differences between those two branches in conference committee. This process wraps up in July. I would argue, and I think we've successfully argued in the past, this commission remains a good investment for the Commonwealth. I think we can certainly justify every dollar and cent that's included in our request. And for insight into that, I wanted to update the commission briefly on our year-to-date, fiscal year-to-date FY22 revenue, and then also compare it to last fiscal year's total fiscal year revenue. So year-to-date FY22 in non-tax revenue, these are things like fees, license fees, agent registration fees, etc. We've already generated $16 million in non-tax revenue for the Commonwealth. Tax revenue, which is a combined sales tax as well as excise tax, year-to-date is $118 million. That's a breakdown of $44 million in sales tax, the 6.25, and $74 million in the 10 3/4 excise tax. So therefore, all in, this commission in some way, shape, or form, and I don't want to take responsibility for sales. We are not responsible for conducting sales. We are responsible for the regulatory environment within which those sales occur. All in, the agency has generated $134 million in tax revenue or non-tax revenue to the Commonwealth. FY21, the last fiscal year, was $201.7 million. So again, if we're seeking a $20 million budget for the agency, last fiscal year non-tax revenue was $25 million. So again, I just think that I wanted to highlight those things. This industry, is obviously scaling itself as we certainly see revenue increases year over year. It's important that this agency continue to scale alongside it so that we can maintain and preserve an effective regulatory scheme and structure and continue supporting our staff that do yeoman's work to get this industry established here in Massachusetts, but also make sure it remains a safe and effective one that the people of Massachusetts expect. So yeah. I think I can probably recede from my soapbox now and take any questions you may have.
I don't have a question, Mr. Executive Director. I do have a comment, which is that there is a long ways to go here, and we are committed to work with the legislature and the executive branch on this. I just want to take the opportunity to thank the legislature and the executive for the last 4 years, which is that we have gotten what we've needed to build and run the agency effectively. I think we have shown that we are careful stewards of the state's money, and as you pointed out, Mr. Executive Director, a good return on investment to the state. And I just wanted to express my gratitude to the legislature and the executive for their support in the past as we continue to dialogue with them going forward. Other comments or questions? Commissioner Concepcion, you're on mute.
Thank you. Very quick question, Mr. Executive Director. Do you mind repeating the non-tax revenue from FY21?
Sure. The non-tax revenue from FY21 was $25 million.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Sean. Also, thank you for that really good breakdown on where we are and the revenue being generated from this industry. That's really helpful.
I should note as well, the $16 million for this fiscal year was through end of month, January.
Okay, thank you.
So 7 out of 12 months. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Camargo.
I guess it's a comment and question, and Mr. Executive Director, I don't know if you'll have all the answer to this, but it's more of an educational question. In terms of the $134 million in tax revenue that this industry has created for the Commonwealth, how does the public sort of understand and or do check and balances in terms of where that money's going throughout the state? And I know we have the marijuana fund, but is that, I feel like we report out in terms of what we do, but how does the State House report back out to communities and folks in the industry to know where all that funding goes. And again, you know, maybe it's another time, but I just wanted to ask that for educational purposes.
There's I'll do my best to answer it, and the answer is it's a bit of budget speak in a way, which is every budget is accompanied. There's a fiscal note to every budget ultimately that identifies the sources of revenue. So, for instance, you'll see it as you comb through the House budget, the Senate budget, et cetera. Where's the revenue coming from to support that line item? And so there'll be disclosure there that 100% of the revenue is going to be the Marijuana Regulation Fund. So you could do that math and then also trace it back to the revenue report that'll say these are the FY23 budget is going to be based on revenue estimates. And then obviously the comptroller at the end of the year does a closeout, which demonstrates, and I think I reported on this last month, we far exceed our estimates. So if they had estimated in FY22 that we were going to generate $20 million in non-tax revenue, we came in at 25 million. So that there's a surplus there. And I think the tax revenue was almost 200% of what they estimated. But in the budget allocation that would be available to us, if folks looked at our line items in the state's budget, it would say that 100% of the source of funds for this is going to be the Marijuana Regulation Fund. So as they comb through the budget, they could identify that source of funding. And that would be the easiest way to identify disclosure as to where that money's going. It's not as simple and easily accessible in a way, but again, if you're kind of in that circle, that's how I would, if I were doing that exercise, that's how I would do it.
Yeah, and I appreciate it, and I ask you because I get asked all the time, right? So every time I'm talking to folks, or I receive emails, or I get, you know, messages on social media, you know, folks ask me, Commissioner, can you explain to me, you know, where does this money go, right? What does it look like when it comes to tax revenue for the state? So, you know, at the end of the day, I'm always trying to educate folks on this process, and if you're not in it, you don't understand it. So I really appreciate that.
Sure. Thank you. Commissioner Roy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Executive Director, does this include these figures, the local tax?
It would not. No, the 3% local,
That's
a great
another
question.
revenue generator that are benefiting local communities, correct?
That would be the 3% tax on top, right?
The 3%, which is not included in these. Okay.
I did not include that figure in our revenue.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Other questions or comments before we move on? Then go ahead, please, Mr. Executive Director.
So I believe the last slide here is just a bit of a hiring update for the commission. I think tying back to the work that we do, and as this industry scales, our attempts to keep pace with it and grow proportionally so that we can again continue to do our jobs and meet our responsibilities effectively. One of the best and simplest ways to do that is to bring on the staff we need to keep pace. So you see here the hiring update, Associate Enforcement Counsel adding one position as well as another constituent service manager. I'm sorry, adding a constituent service manager to our team. We're in the final candidate stage, and I think have identified, we're close to identifying candidates to fill those roles. We posted in positions have recently closed for Budget Director, Manager of Government Affairs and Policy, as well as a project coordinator in our Equity Programming and Community Outreach Department. And lastly, we just posted this week the role of a multimedia content producer to land within our communications team. That was a position you recently approved at your meetings. The deadline to apply for that position is March 4th by 5 p.m. So we also posted that position in different trade groups. Specifically, I believe there's some communications journals and things that we posted those roles into, and I will get you a specific reference for them if you give me one moment. I know that's a question that commissioners often ask. So it was the National Association of Black Journalists as well as the National Association of Hispanic Journalists.
Thank you. Questions or comments? That I believe is the last slide you have, Mr. Executive Director. So let me open it just to my fellow commissioners. Are there any other questions, not just on these slides, but any other questions for the Executive Director at this point in time before we move into licensing? In that case, thank you, Sean. That was great. I think every month these reports get, I think, better, more informative, more insightful. So appreciate your work and obviously the staff work that goes behind that. But I learned a lot today, so I appreciate it. And the numbers and the data that you shared just underscore how productive this commission has been over time, and particularly in the last 12 months. While we've all been working remotely, it's extraordinarily impressive, and I'm deeply grateful to the work that goes behind the data that you shared today. Okay, why don't we get into the licensing part of our agenda? I will suggest that let's get started, and we'll take a break at some point in time in this process. I believe, if I'm correct, Derek Chamberlain is back again for a second month. Thank you for coming back, Derek. Greatly appreciated. And we're going to start with changes of ownership. And before I ask you, Derek, to get going, Commissioner Roy has requested a blanket condition on these 5 applications for change of ownership. So let me read that, make sure everybody's comfortable with that, and then as we go through and I ask for motions, the motions will include this blanket condition. So specifically, what Commissioner Roy has asked for is a blanket condition to help ensure compliance with 500.1045 and 501.1045. It is required that an update be provided to the Commission within 5 days of any changes, modifications, or implementation issues by new ownership of prior ownership's Commission approved diversity plan and/or positive impact plan, including but not limited to goals, programs, measurements, and accountability. First of all, Commissioner Roy, did I get that right?
You did. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then second of all, again, my intent would be, as we take a vote on each of these individually, to include that blanket condition. So if there are any concerns about imposing this blanket condition, let's get them on the table now. Otherwise, as I said, I will include them in all the motions. Go ahead, Commissioner Roy.
I just want to thank Kyle Potvin and the licensing team. I worked a lot with him to make sure this language was correct. And we tighten the language, and so I just want to thank him. We spent a lot of time on this. Thank you.
Again, any concerns if I include this blanket condition in each of the change of ownership applications that we're going to consider? Go ahead, Commissioner Concepcion. You didn't need to raise 2 hands. I saw you with 1 hand.
The sun is on one side of me, so I didn't know if I needed to raise both. Commissioner Roy, just for clarity, this is similar to the condition from the last month as well.
Correct.
Okay.
But with some changes, we, in working with Kyle, we identified that 500.104 is the best regulation to identify in this condition. So it's 5 days within any changes, modification, or implementation issues by new ownership of prior ownership's Commission-approved diversity and/or positive impact plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the blanket condition before I ask Derek to walk through each of these individually? Go ahead, Commissioner Camargo.
I just think, Commissioner Roy, thank you for your time commitment to change of ownerships. I think it's key. We've had conversations just around, folks selling and buying, and what does that mean for their plans to positively impact the communities and their diversity plans. So thank you for looking at those and bringing in this, this condition. I think we all think it's important, right? In terms of who the new ownership is and are they revisiting their plans? So thank you. It's a big deal.
Thank you.
Thanks. Other comments? Okay, then Derek, if you wouldn't mind, let's start with the first of these, which is Alfred's Finest Incorporated.
Yep, certainly. So the licensee here is Alfred's Finest Incorporated. We're seeking a change of ownership and control of 3 adult use licenses, and we're requesting to add 10 individuals and 3 entities. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. And therefore, Commission staff do recommend review and decision on this request, and if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments or requests for additional conditions other than the blanket condition requested by Commissioner Roy? Okay, then Commissioner Camargo, could I please ask for a motion to approve staff recommendation on change of ownership for Alfred's Finest Incorporated, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Camargo made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Concepcion. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the commission approved the staff recommendation on change of ownership by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thank you. Next up, Mr. Chamberlain, is Cultivana LLC.
The licensee here is Cultivation LLC. They're seeking a change of ownership and control of 1 adult use license and are requesting to add 8 individuals and 4 entities. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the commission's review and consideration. Therefore, commission staff do recommend review and decision on this request, and if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions or comments or requests for additional conditions other than the condition requested by Commissioner Roy? Then Commissioner Concepcion, could I ask you please to make a motion to approve the staff recommendation on change of ownership for Cultivana LLC, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy, could I ask you to second that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Concepcion made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the commission approved staff recommendation on change of ownership for Cultivana LLC by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thank you. Next up, Mr. Chamberlain, ERBA C3 Dorchester LLC.
The licensee here is ERBA C3 Dorchester LLC. They're seeking a change of ownership and control of 1 adult use license and requesting to add 1 entity. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the commission's review and consideration. Therefore, commission staff do recommend review and decision on this request. And if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, comments, or requests for additional conditions other than the condition requested by Commissioner Roy? Then Commissioner Roy, could I ask please for a motion to approve the staff recommendation on change of ownership for ERBA C3 Dorchester LLC, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Roy made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Stebbins. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show the commission approve the staff recommendation, approve the motion by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thank you. Next up, Mr. Chamberlain, Massachusetts Citizens for Social Equity, LLC.
The licensee here is Massachusetts Citizens for Social Equity LLC. They're seeking a change of ownership and control of 2 adult use licenses and are requesting to add 3 individuals and 2 entities. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the commission's review and consideration. Therefore, commission staff do recommend review and decision on this request, and if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions or comments or requests for additional conditions other than the condition requested by Commissioner Roy on this application for change of ownership? Then could I ask Commissioner Stebbins, would you please make a motion to approve staff recommendation on change of ownership for Massachusetts Citizens for Social Equity LLC, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Camargo, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Stebbins made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thank you. Next up, Mr. Chamberlain, Turning Leaf Centers of Northampton, LLC.
The licensee here is Turning Leaf Centers of Northampton LLC. They're seeking a change of ownership and control of 1 adult use license and are requesting to add 1 individual. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the commission's review and consideration. And therefore, Commission staff do recommend a review and decision on this request, and if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions before you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments or requests for additional conditions other than the condition requested by Commissioner Roy? Then Commissioner Camargo, could I ask you please to make a motion to approve staff recommendation on change of ownership for Turning Leaf Centers of Northampton LLC, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion, could I ask you to second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Camargo made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Concepcion. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Mr. Chamberlain, are there any other changes of ownership for the commission to be considering at this point in time?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on then to renewals. This will be a little bit complicated, but I think I've got it under control. But before I go through this, Commissioner Camargo is asked to make a few comments before we get into the actual licenses. Go ahead, please, Commissioner Camargo.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to try to be brief, but I will say, dear renewal community, or dear applicants and licensees that are in the process of renewing. We have a lot of guidance documents on our website that are available. We just a few months ago redrafted and updated the diversity plans guidance document. In there is a section for renewals. If you have questions around your renewal as it relates to positive impact plan and diversity plans, take 10 minutes to read it. I have been reading renewals, I think, since about March. And it's, you know, it's sometimes it gets frustrating, but it's also evident that folks are waiting to the last minute to submit renewal information or to gather information on their outcomes as it relates to positive impact plans and diversity plans. The reality is that folks sometimes do not reach their goals. There's stuff that happens. Folks are trying to run a business. It's been COVID, we get it. But I would ask folks that are in the renewal process to really take the same way you look at your security plans, take that same initiative for your positive impact plans and your diversity plans. We're reading a lot of renewal applications that are they're messy, they're confusing. People think that more is better. If there's too many sentences for you to write, there's probably too many sentences for us to read. You know, keep it clear, keep it concise. If you haven't reached your outcome, think about the work that you have done when it comes to mentoring folks, coaching people, connecting, networking. That's all good. I want to just say, try to keep it simple. We just want to know your outcomes. At the end of the day, what we care about is how are you positively impacting these communities through your PIPs and your diversity plans. I want to thank our staff, Sarah and Annie, Olivia and Marla, who are new to the team, to the renewal team. I met with them this week. We went over renewals. Next month, I'm going to, I don't know how, I'll talk to the executive director, but somehow we'll try to put it on the website. We've found a few good samples of renewals in terms when it comes to the positive impact plans and the diversity plans. And we're going to put that up as a sample for folks to look at when they're doing the renewals so they can try to follow it, right? So we're going to hopefully do that next month. I just want to give, and thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to make these comments, but renewals to me are very key. It allows us to really see what folks are doing in the community. And when we hear all the millions and billions of dollars that are being made in this industry, you know, this is important because it goes back to some of our communities as well. So I just want to give quick kudos to a couple of companies that have done it well this month. River Run Gardens, they've done a lot of work in the community. Most recently, they donated 500 jackets to a local organization out in Haverhill, In Good Health. You've done a lot of work in terms of promoting from the inside. So thank you for that and increasing your diversity numbers. HVV, You have done a lot of work for disproportionately impacted communities in the last year, specifically around donations to Girls Leap, donations to Last Prisoners Project, and 407 pounds worth of food to shelters in the area. I also want to just give quick kudos to Full Harvest Moon. They were able to help during the pandemic with internet access in some of the local communities that they serve. So thank you for that. CDX, and again, these are different and creative ways to be impactful in the community. You all have donated some of your parking space to the city of Salem to be able for folks to use it for the city. So thank you for doing that and collaborating with a local high school moving forward to talk about education and science and how this industry relates to future workforce employment. ComCan, just want a quick shout out to you as well. You guys most recently received an award for having 51% of your company represented in the LGBTQ community. So congratulations for that. And Holistic Industries, also well done on your diversity hiring numbers. And thank you for displaying it for us to understand what you've actually done. So I just wanted to give those quick shout outs, and again, thank our staff who every month are going through these and helping me to better understand the work that is being done a year later after these folks have opened up. So thank you for indulging me in my comments.
No, thank you for the comments, and thank you, as I said many times previously, thank you very much for your focus on this important topic. So appreciate your leadership on this, Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Roy, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to give a recognition to Community Care Collective. Based on the new guidance that Commissioner Camargo and Commissioner Stebbins worked so hard on with staff, adding that second goal, if you will, and they added that they now donate to Revere substance use disorder initiatives through the mayor's office. So I want to commend them for that, for adding that second goal. And I want to thank Commissioner Camargo for all the time that she spends poring over these renewals. They're super important. They are your blueprint for moving forward. And I agree with her wholeheartedly that they do need to be clear and concise and meaningful. So thank you so much, Commissioner Camargo.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments before we get going on the roster? Mr. Chamberlain, any comments before I ask for motions and votes on the roster?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So as usual, we treat renewals as a roster, but there are 4 adult use renewal applications that we need to pull out of the roster and treat separately. So we'll go through each of those and then we'll go through the rest of the roster. The first is B, Atlantic Medicinal Partners Incorporated. Commissioner Camargo, I believe you have a request for an additional condition on this renewal, if I'm correct. And specifically, the request from Commissioner Camargo is within 90 days, please clarify the 66% of staff diversity. Are there other conditions or requests or comments on this renewal?
No, not for me.
Nothing? Okay. Then may I ask Commissioner Concepcion, would you please make a motion to approve staff recommendation on renewal for Atlantic Medicinal Partners Incorporated, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Camargo?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Concepcion made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. The next renewal that we'll consider separately outside the roster is Core Empowerment LLC. Commissioner Camargo, I believe you've asked to be recused. So if you could turn off your camera, please, and disappear for a few seconds. Thank you. Are there any comments or questions before I ask for a motion? Then could I ask Commissioner Roy, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a renewal to Core Empowerment LLC?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let's make sure that Commissioner Roy made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Stebbins. Commissioner Concepcion, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 4 in favor. Commissioners Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman, with Commissioner Camargo recused. Commissioner Camargo, welcome back. The next two that we'll consider separately outside of the roster are PP and QQ, both for Resonate Incorporated. Commissioner Roy, I believe you've asked to be recused.
Yes.
So again, you know the drill. Turn off your camera, please. Thank you. Commissioner Camargo, you have a request for an additional condition on both of these licenses, or just one? Well, on both. Okay, so we'll treat them as a mini roster. The request for the additional condition on both these licenses from Commissioner Camargo specifically is as follows. Within 90 days, licensee to clarify partnership mentorship initiative on how it relates to ME mentioned in renewal under diversity plan success. Be concise and clear with your response, edit for clarification, and resubmit. Any additional comments, Commissioner Camargo? Any other comments or requests for additional conditions on these renewals? Then I would like to ask Commissioner Stebbins, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a renewal to Resonate Incorporated, both MRR 205979 as well as MRR 205964, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Camargo?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Camargo, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let's make sure that Commissioner Stebbins made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 4 in favor. Commissioners Concepcion, Camargo, Concepcion, Stebbins, and Hoffman, with Commissioner Roy recused. Thank you. Welcome back, Commissioner Roy. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
I would next like to ask for a motion to approve the remaining roster of adult use renewals, and to be specific, on this agenda, it is items A, C through J, L through 00, and R through WW. Could I ask Commissioner Camargo, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation issue renewals to that roster?
So moved.
Thank you. Could I ask Commissioner Concepcion to second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Camargo made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Concepcion. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman, with none opposed. Lastly, on renewals, I'd like the commission to consider the medical renewals, double X through double Z, excuse me. Are there any questions or comments before I ask for a motion? Then Commissioner Concepcion, could I ask you please to make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue renewals to the roster double X through double Z?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Concepcion made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman, with none opposed. Thank you. Mr. Chamberlain, are there any other renewals for the commission to consider at this point in time?
Not this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Then let's move on to final licenses. Thank you. Mr. Chamberlain, any comments before I ask for a motion on this? And again, we our policy is to treat this as one roster, so we'll have one vote on it. Mr. Chamberlain, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you noted earlier, there are 12 final license recommendations for the Commission's consideration today. Additionally, this group of final licenses also includes 2 economic empowerment applicants, as well as 1 social equity participant. Commission staff do therefore recommend review and decision on these final licenses, and if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much. I am not aware of any requests for additional condition on any of these licenses, but are there comments, questions, or requests for additional conditions before I ask for a motion? Go ahead, Commissioner Roy.
I just want to clarify a point. I gave a shout out to community care under renewals, and they are actually a final. So kudos to them.
I looked at my renewal list. I said, where are they?
I know I jumped ahead on us, but I just want to give them a shout out for their second goal, donating to substance use disorder through the mayor's office in Revere. So I clarify that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, no problem. Any other comments or questions or requests for conditions? Then could I ask Commissioner Roy, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue final licenses to this roster?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Roy made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Stebbins. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman, with none opposed. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Roy.
Do we have a 3-minute break, please, Mr. Chairman?
I was just going to, well, you've read my mind. So I think before we get into provisionals, let's take a little break. We're doing really well, actually. So I think we might be able to finish pretty quickly after taking a break. But let us take a break. I'm going to actually say let's take a 15-minute break. It's 11:15. So can we take a break until 11:30?
Thank you very much.
Okay. So we are on recess until 11:30 a.m. Thank you, everybody. Okay, I see all of my fellow commissioners back, so it is 11:30 a.m. and the commission is back in session. The next item on the agenda are staff recommendations with respect to provisional licenses. Before we get started, Commissioner Stebbins is asked to make some opening comments. Please go ahead, Commissioner Stebbins.
Thank you, Mr. Colleagues. You know, this is a pretty good group of provisional license applications. But again, I do wish to raise a concern that I've spoken about before. Please make your diversity and your positive impact plans your own, based on your location, your host community, your location or proximity to a disproportionately impacted community. I continue to see some kind of cut and paste approaches. Again, I appreciate the incredible effort that goes into pursuing a license and opening a marijuana establishment. But I give credit to those applicants who take this process seriously and the planning behind these critical elements of their application. Secondly, I noticed some applicants who are making a donation simply acknowledge in their metrics that they will report that they issued the donation. I'd encourage you to follow up the organization to see what the impact is to your community. You're contributing considerable sums of money in donations. Work with those organizations to make sure the contributions are meeting your intended purpose. So just a reminder again, as folks are preparing or in the midst of going through the provisional application phase, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that time.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before I turn it over to Derek to start this process, I have a request from Commissioner Roy for a blanket condition on all provisional licenses. So I'd like to read that and then make sure that we're all comfortable with that, and then I'll include that as a condition in all of the individual provisional licenses that we consider. The request for a blanket condition from Commissioner Roy is as follows. Prior to performing job functions, all provisional licensees shall ensure that all current marijuana establishment, medical treatment center, and independent testing laboratory agents involved in the handling or sale of marijuana for adult and medical use shall have attended and successfully completed the basic core curriculum of the responsible vendor training program to be designated a responsible vendor and provide a certificate of completion to the commission upon request. In addition, all newly hired employees involved in the handling or sale of marijuana or marijuana products must also successfully complete the basic core curriculum of the responsible vendor training program within 90 days of hire in compliance with 935 CMR 500.1052 or 935 CMR 501.1052. Did I get that right, Commissioner Roy?
You did, Mr. Chairman, and I just want to add that someday I hope not to have this blanket condition if we see compliance go way up in responsible vendor training. So my goal is not to have to do this blanket condition eventually.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I share that objective. Are there any comments or questions for Commissioner Roy? Again, my intent will be, unless there are concerns, that I will include that as an additional condition in all the provisional licenses that we considered this morning. Okay, then Derek, let's get started, please, if we could. The first provisional license up for consideration by the Commission is Blossom Flower LLC, which is a marijuana delivery operator. The applicant is a social equity program graduate. Please go ahead, Derek. Thank you.
Certainly. The applicant here is Blossom Flower LLC. The proposed location is 1 Cabot Street, located in Holyoke, Massachusetts. They're seeking a marijuana delivery operator license. This applicant received expedited review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments, or requests for additional conditions other than the condition requested by Commissioner Roy? Then could I ask Commissioner Camargo, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Blossom Flower LLC, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion, would you second that motion, please? Commissioner Concepcion?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Camargo made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Concepcion. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thanks. Next up is Coastal Healing Incorporated. Mr. Chamberlain?
If the applicant here is Coastal Healing Incorporated, the proposed location is 248 State Road, located in Westport, Massachusetts. They are seeking a retail license, and this applicant received general review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much. I have a request from Commissioner Roy for an additional condition on this license, in addition to the blanket condition that was requested. Specifically, prior to performing job functions at marijuana establishment, all paid interns, as stated in Gold Number University Plan, must become registered agents in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and provide agent registration cards to the Commission upon request. Pursuant to 935 CMR 500.30, a marijuana establishment shall apply for registration for all of its employees, owners, executives, and volunteers who are associated with that marijuana establishment. The Commission shall issue an agent registration card to each individual determined to be suitable for registration. Are there comments, questions, or requests for additional conditions on this license? Then could I ask Commissioner Concepcion, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Coastal Healing Incorporated, subject to the 2 additional conditions requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Concepcion made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the Commission approved the motion by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thank you. Next up are 2 co-located applications from Hardwick Mill Greenery for cultivation, Tier 6 indoor cultivation, as well as retail. Please go ahead, Mr. Chamberlain.
The applicant here is Hardwick Mill Greenery Incorporated. The proposed location is 94 Main Street, located in Hardwick, Massachusetts. They're seeking cultivation and retail licenses, and this applicant received general review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much. I have several requests from Commissioner Roy for additional conditions. First, on the first of these licenses, the Tier 6 cultivation license, 2 additional conditions requested by Commissioner Roy. First, Prior to final licensure, please identify and inform the commission of your additional operational plans for indoor and outdoor marijuana cultivators as it relates to quality control samples in accordance with 935 CMR 500.12014, whereas a marijuana cultivator may provide a quality control sample of marijuana flower to its employees for the purpose of ensuring product quality and determining whether to make the product available to sell. All quality control samples provided by a marijuana cultivator under 935 CMR 500.12014 shall be assigned a unique sequential alphanumeric identifier and entered into seed to sale in a form and manner to be determined by the commission, and further shall be designated as quality control sample. Commissioner Roy, any comments on that? Before I talk about the second condition you've requested.
Just that we have a lot of cultivators coming on board, and I noticed in researching all of their quality control plans, this is not listed. So I just feel it's important to identify and let the commission know their plans surrounding their additional operation plans for indoor and outdoor marijuana cultivation as it relates to quality control samples. So that's why I placed that.
Thank you. Any comments before I read the second additional condition requested by Commissioner Roy on this license? Then the second additional condition requested by Commissioner Roy on this license is prior to final application for licensure, the applicant shall ensure compliance with 935 CMR 500.0507C, namely not providing direct or indirect compensation and/or free consultation services to independent testing laboratories in the execution of its plan to positively impact disproportionately harm people as a condition of licensure. Again, Commissioner Roy, any comments on that request for additional condition? Okay.
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Any other comments, questions, or requests for additional conditions on this license? Then could I ask, I think we're up to you, Commissioner Roy. Could I ask Commissioner Roy to make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Holyoke Mill Greenery Incorporated for Tier 6 indoor cultivation, subject to the 3 additional conditions requested by Commissioner Roy? Could I have such a motion, please, Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Could I have a second, please, Commissioner Stebbins?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Roy made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Stebbins. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Next, I would like to have a motion to approve the staff recommendation issue of provisional license to Holyoke Mill Greenery Incorporated for retail, subject to the 2 additional conditions requested by Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Stebbins, could I'm sorry, before I ask for a motion, are there any additional questions, comments, or requests for additional conditions on this license? Then Commissioner Stebbins, could I have a motion to approve staff recommendations subject to the 2 additional conditions requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Camargo, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Stebbins made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thank you. Next up are 3 co-located applications from Holyoke Green Grocers LLC, Tier 4 indoor cultivation, product manufacturer, and retail. This is an economic empowerment applicant, so received priority review as a result. Please go ahead, Mr. Chamberlain.
Yep, the applicant here is Holyoke Green Growers LLC. The proposed location is 60 Jackson Street, located in Holyoke, Massachusetts. Seeking cultivation, product manufacturing, and retail licenses, and this applicant received priority review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much. I have a request from Commissioner Roy for an additional condition on the first of these, the cultivation license specifically. Prior to final licensure, please identify and inform the Commission of your additional operational plans for indoor and outdoor outdoor marijuana cultivators as it relates to quality control samples in accordance with 935 CMR 500.12014, Whereas a marijuana cultivator may provide a quality control sample of marijuana flower to its employees for the purpose of ensuring product quality and determining whether to make the product available to sell. All quality control samples provided by a marijuana cultivator under 935 CMR 500-12014 shall be assigned a unique sequential alphanumeric identifier and entered into seed to sale tracking system in a form and manner to be determined by the Commission, and further shall be designated as a quality control sample. I presume this is the same condition that you had on the previous license, Commissioner Roy, so no additional comments, or do you have any?
A quick comment, Mr. Chairman. I want to commend Holyoke Green Growers. They actually had the best quality control plan I have seen, and it was excellent. But I'm asking cultivators to address quality control samples moving forward, which I'm not seeing at all for their plan. But their plan was excellent, but it did not address quality control samples. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, comments, or requests for additional conditions on this license? Then could I ask Commissioner Carter, would you please make a motion to approve staff recommendation issue a provisional license to Holyoke Green Growers LLC for Tier 4 indoor cultivation, subject to the 2 additional conditions requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Camargo made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Concepcion. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Next up, for Holyoke Green Growers LLC, product manufacturing, other than the blanket condition requested by Commissioner Roy on all provisional licenses, I'm not aware of any other requests for additional conditions on this license, but are there questions, comments, or requests for additional conditions? Then Commissioner Concepcion, could I ask you please for a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Holyoke Green Growers LLC for product manufacturing, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner, thank you. Commissioner Roy, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Concepcion made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. I let the record show that the commission or the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Next up is the final license for Holyoke Green Growers LLC for retail. Again, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Roy. Can I ask, are there questions, comments, or requests for additional conditions on this license? Then could I ask Commissioner Roy, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Holyoke Green Growers LLC for retail, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins. Could I ask you to second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let's record show that Commissioner Roy made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Stebbins. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Next up, Mr. Chamberlain is Holyoke Smokes Corp., marijuana delivery operator. The applicant is a social equity program participant. Please go ahead.
Yep, the applicant here is Holyoke Smokes Corp. The proposed location is 110-116 Winter Street, located in Holyoke, Massachusetts. They're seeking a marijuana delivery operator license, and this applicant received expedited review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chamberlain. I'm not aware of any requests for additional conditions on this license other than the blanket condition requested by Commissioner Roy. Are there comments, questions, or requests for additional conditions? Then Commissioner Stebbins, could I please ask you for a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Holyoke Smokes Corp., subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Camargo, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let's make sure that Commissioner Stebbins made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thank you. Next up, Mr. Chamberlain, there are two co-located applications from Holyoke Wilds LLC for Tier 2 indoor cultivation and for product manufacturing. Please go ahead.
The applicant here is Holyoke Wilds LLC. The proposed location is 20 Hadley Mill Road, located in Holyoke, Massachusetts. They're seeking a cultivation and a product manufacturing license. This applicant received general review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much. I have a request from Commissioner Roy for an additional condition on the first of these two, the Tier 2 indoor cultivation license application. Specifically, prior to final licensure, please identify and inform the Commission of your additional operational plans for indoor and outdoor marijuana cultivators as it relates to quality control samples in accordance with 935 CMR 500.12014. Whereas a marijuana cultivator may provide a quality control sample of marijuana flower to its employees for the purpose of ensuring product quality and determining whether to make the product available to sell. All quality control samples provided by a marijuana cultivator under 935 CMR 500.12014 shall be assigned a unique sequential alphanumeric identifier and entered in the seed sale tracking in the form and manner to be determined by the Commission, and further shall be designated as quality control sample. Again, Commissioner Roy, any additional comments on that?
I just apologize for the length of it, Mr. Chairman.
You apologize to me. I hope you're apologizing to me for making me read. No, I'm kidding. It's important. This is important. I'm sorry. I should not have. I should have not made light of it. I apologize. I'm not aware of any additional conditions being requested on this license other than the blanket condition that Commissioner Roy has requested. Are there comments, questions, or requests for additional conditions? Then Commissioner Concepcion, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Holyoke Wilds LLC for Tier 2 indoor cultivation, subject to the 2 additional conditions requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Concepcion made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Next is the second Holyoke Wild LLC application for product manufacturing. Other than the blanket condition requested by Commissioner Roy on all provisional licenses, I'm not aware of any other requests for additional conditions. Are there comments, questions, or requests for additional conditions on this application? Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Camargo. Did I miss something?
Yes. Thank you. No, I just wanted to make a quick comment.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure that I hadn't screwed up. Go ahead.
Yeah. Quick comment. Really appreciate their diversity supplier ideas and numbers in terms of what they're trying to do. And also in their positive impact plan, they are going to support social equity applicants with low interest loans starting at $5,000. So just other good ideas for folks to think about.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Camargo. Other comments, questions, or requests for additional conditions? Commissioner Roy, could I ask you please to make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Holyoke Wilds LLC for product manufacturing, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let's make sure that Commissioner Roy made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Stebbins. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Next up, Mr. Chamberlain, Impressed LLC, doing business as Impressed for product manufacturing. Please go ahead.
Certainly, the applicant here is Impressed LLC, doing business as Impressed. The proposed location is 15 Commercial Way, located in Hanson, Massachusetts. They're seeking a product manufacturing license, and this applicant received general review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chamberlain. I have a request from Commissioner Camargo for an additional condition on this license, specifically prior to final license, applicant to edit and resubmit both DP and PIP to clearly state intended goals and programs. Commissioner Camargo, any comments?
No, just, you know, I think their intentions are in the right place. I just think it needs to be re-edited and clarified as to what exactly they want to do for their positive impact plan and diversity plan. So they can edit it, clarify, and resubmit.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments, questions, or requests for additional conditions on this application? Then could I ask Commissioner Stebbins, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Impressed LLC doing business as Impressed, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioners Camargo and Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Camargo, could I ask you to second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Stebbins made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman, with none opposed. Thank you. Next up is Keith USA LLC doing business as We LLC, Tier 11 indoor cultivation. This application received prioritized treatment based upon the applicant status as a disadvantaged business enterprise, both as a woman-owned business and a minority-owned business. Mr. Chairman, please go ahead.
The applicant here is Keith USA LLC doing business as We LLC. The proposed location is 1 Turner Street, formerly known as 330 Turner Street, excuse me, located in Middleborough, Massachusetts. They're seeking a cultivation license. This applicant received expedited review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration, and therefore Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you. I have multiple requests for additional conditions on this license, starting with Commissioner Stebbins, who has 2 requests for additional conditions. First, prior to final application for licensure, please identify specific disproportionately impacted communities for positive impact plan. Second, prior to final application for licensure, review and update diversity hiring goals based upon statistics of community and region, not just based upon overall state statistics. From Commissioner Roy, I have additional two conditions. First, in compliance with 500.105 4A advertising requirements, colloquial references to marijuana and cannabis are prohibited from use in brand name. Therefore, Keith USA LLC may not use said name in any permitted advertising activities. Instead, may use DBA We LLC in accordance with 935 CMR 500.105 4A. So let me ask for any comments on that before I move on to Commissioner Roy's second requested additional condition. Commissioner Roy, do you have any comments on that?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. The next additional condition requested by Commissioner Roy, and you've heard this before, I'll try to read it right again. Prior to final licensure, please identify and inform the Commission of your additional operation plans for indoor and outdoor marijuana cultivators as it relates to quality control samples in accordance with 935 CMR 500.12014, whereas a marijuana cultivator may provide a quality control sample of marijuana flower to its employees for the purpose of ensuring product quality and determining whether to make the product available to sell. All quality control samples provided by a marijuana cultivator under 935 CMR 500.12014 shall be assigned a unique sequential alphanumeric identifier and entered into the seed to sale tracking system in a form and manner to be determined by the Commission, and further shall be designated as quality control sample. Are there any questions or comments or requests for additional conditions on this license? Then could I ask Commissioner Camargo, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Keith USA LLC doing business as We LLC, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioner Stebbins and Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let's make sure that Commissioner Camargo made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Concepcion. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thank you. Next up is Middleborough Growers Incorporated, Tier 11 Indoor Cultivation. This was expedited based upon license type.
Yep, the applicant here is Middleborough Growers Incorporated. The proposed location is 672 Wareham Street, located in Middleborough, Massachusetts. We're seeking a cultivation license, and this applicant received expedited review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much. I have requests from Commissioners Camargo, Stebbins, and Roy for additional conditions on this license, starting with Commissioner Camargo. She has 2 requested additional conditions. First, prior to final license, applicant to explain how a donation to Chamber of Commerce in Wareham would be used. For example, what cohort will the donation to the Chamber of Commerce in Wareham impact? And then secondly, diversity plan resubmit to include more than hiring. Commissioner Stebbins, his additional request condition is as follows. Prior to final application for licensure, identify organizations intended to receive contributions through annual donation to Cape Cod Canal Regional Chamber of Commerce. And then from Commissioner Roy, specifically, prior to final licensure, please identify and inform the Commission of your additional operational plans for indoor and outdoor marijuana cultivators as it relates to quality control samples in accordance with 935 CMR 500.12014. Whereas marijuana cultivator may provide a quality control sample of marijuana flower to its employees for the purpose of ensuring product quality and determining whether to make the product available to sell. All quality control samples provided by a marijuana cultivator under 935 CMR 500.12014 shall be assigned a unique sequential alphanumeric identifier and entered into seed-to-sale tracking in a form and manner to be determined by the Commission, and further shall be designated as quality control sample. Any comments on any of those conditions before I ask whether there are any additional conditions requested? Then are there any questions, comments, or requests for additional conditions on this license? If I could, then could I ask Commissioner Concepcion, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Middleborough Growers Incorporated, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioners Roy, Stebbins, and Camargo?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Concepcion made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thank you. Our next application, Mr. Chamberlain, is, if I'm correct, Morando Brands LLC for product manufacturing.
The applicant here is Morando Brands LLC. Proposed location is 319 Newburyport Turnpike, units 002/003, located in Rowley, Massachusetts. They're seeking a product manufacturing license, and this applicant received general review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration, and therefore Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much. In addition to the blanket condition requested by Commissioner Roy on all provisional licenses, I have a request from Commissioner Stebbins for an additional condition, specifically prior to final application for licensure, contact CCC Licensing Division for an update to confirm your training and recruitment partners' eligibility to support your activities. Any comments on that, Commissioner Stebbins?
Nope. Thank you.
Sure. Are there any other questions, comments, or requests for additional conditions on this license? Then could I ask Commissioner Roy, would you please make a motion to approve staff recommendation issue a provisional license to Morando Brands LLC, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioner Stebbins and Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that the motion was made by Commissioner Roy, seconded by Commissioner Stebbins. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thank you. Next up, Mr. Chamberlain, New Dia Fenway LLC. This is an economic empowerment applicant.
Yep. The applicant here is New Dia Fenway LLC. The proposed location is 48-62 Brookline Avenue, located in Boston, Massachusetts. They're seeking a retail license, and this applicant received priority review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much. I have a request from Commissioner Roy for an additional condition on this license specifically, and this is in addition to her request for a blanket condition on all provisionals, but specifically, prior to final licensure and upon receiving a commence operations notice, the applicant shall ensure full compliance with all consumer educational material requirements applicable to its license type in accordance with 935 CMR 500.1406. Namely bullet 7 by adding referral information for substance use disorder treatment programs and telephone number for the Massachusetts Substance Use Helpline. Commissioner Roy, any comments on that?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Are there requests for additional conditions on the licensure, comments or questions? Okay, then could I ask please Commissioner Stebbins, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to New Dia Fenway LLC, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Camargo, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Stebbins made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thank you. Next, we have 3 co-located applications from Revolution Green Care LLC, Tier 6 Indoor Cultivation, Product Manufacturing, and Retail. Please go ahead, Mr. Chamberlain.
Yep. The applicant here is Revolution Green Care LLC. The proposed location is 30 Buckley Boulevard, located in Chicopee, Massachusetts. They're seeking a cultivation, product manufacturing, and retail license. This applicant received general review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm not sure I've got this right. Let me start. Have requests from both Commissioner Stebbins and Commissioner Roy for additional conditions. Commissioner Stebbins, is your requested condition applicable to all 3 licenses?
Yes, it is. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No problem. So I think I've got this right. So let me start with Commissioner Stebbins. So his request for an additional condition is as follows. Prior to final application for licensure, review positive impact plan and consider any strategy for outreach to residents of nearby disproportionate impacted designated communities of Holyoke and Springfield for employment and provide any update. From Commissioner Roy, I believe that there are 2 additional conditions and on top of her blanket condition requested for the first of these, the cultivation license. First, prior to final application for licensure, the applicant shall ensure compliance with 935 CMR 500.0507C, namely not providing direct or indirect compensation and/or free consultation and ancillary services to independent testing laboratories in the execution of its plan to positively impact disproportionately harm people as a condition of licensure. And then with respect to the cultivation license, again, prior to final licensure, please identify and inform the Commission of your additional operational plans for indoor and outdoor marijuana cultivators as it relates to quality control samples in accordance with 935 CMR 500.12014, whereas a marijuana cultivator may provide a quality control sample of marijuana flower to its employees for the purpose of ensuring product quality and determining whether to make the product available to sell. All quality control samples provided by a marijuana cultivator under 935 CMR 500.12014 shall be assigned a unique sequential alphanumeric identifier and entered into the seed to sale tracking system in a form and manner to be determined by the Commission, and further shall be designated as quality control sample. Are there any questions, comments, or go ahead, Commissioner Roy?
I just want to clarify for edification, the first condition that you just read was for all 3 license types?
Yes, no, I've got that, but we're only
The second one was just cultivation, so I didn't want there to be any
No,
confusion.
I think I've got that. So therefore, since we're starting with cultivation, both conditions apply. And then when we go through the other two, it'll only be one of the conditions. I've got that. But thank you for the clarification.
Great, thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments, or additional conditions requested on this license? Then could I ask Commissioner Concepcion, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Revolution, we are on Revolutionary Green Care LLC for Tier 6 indoor cultivation, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioner Stebbins and Roy.
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show Commissioner Concepcion made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Next up, we have the second application from Revolution Green Care LLC for product manufacturing. And just to be clear, the conditions that are sought to be imposed upon this license are the blanket condition from Commissioner Roy, the first condition with respect to prohibiting direct or indirect compensation to labs, and then the condition requested by Commissioner Stebbins. Are there additional questions, comments, or requests for additional conditions on this license? Then could I ask Commissioner Roy, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Revolution Green Care LLC, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioner Stebbins and Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Roy made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Stebbins. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Next up is Revolution Green Care LLC, the third co-located license, which is for retail. And again, to be specific, we have the blanket condition on all provisionals requested by Commissioner Roy. We have Commissioner Stebbins, additional condition, and we have the condition requested by Commissioner Roy with respect to not providing direct or indirect compensation to labs. Those are the 3 additional conditions requested on this license. Are there any additional questions, comments, or requests for additional conditions on this license? Then could I ask Commissioner Stebbins, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Revolution Green Care LLC for retail, subject to additional conditions requested by Commissioner Stebbins and Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Camargo, could I ask you to second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let's make sure that Commissioner Stebbins made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thank you. Next up, Mr. Chamberlain, is Rooted In LLC, doing business as Rooted in Roxbury for retail. This is a social equity applicant. Please go ahead.
The applicant here is Rooted In LLC, doing business as Rooted in Roxbury. The proposed location is 331 Newbury Street, located in Boston, Massachusetts. They're seeking a retail license, and this applicant received expedited review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much. Other than the blanket condition requested by Commissioner Roy on all provisional licenses, I am not aware of any other additional conditions being requested on this licensure. Please go ahead, Commissioner Concepcion.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have a condition. I just wanted to say a comment.
Sure.
This applicant had one of the best positive impact plans that I read this month, so I wanted to highlight that. The plan was unique to the intended cohort, and it showed an incredible amount of knowledge and thoughtfulness for the ADI being served. So I just wanted to, tip my hat and commend them because it stood out.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments, questions, or go ahead, Commissioner Camargo?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on Commissioner Concepcion. They have a employee profit sharing initiative that they're going to create as part of the positive impact plan, and a home buyer down payment program for their employees. So again, different ways to impact.
Thank you. Are there additional conditions requested on this application, or questions or comments? Okay, I think I'm going to start with you, Commissioner Camargo, if that's okay. Can I ask please for a motion to approve staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Rooted In LLC doing business as Rooted In Roxbury, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Camargo made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Concepcion. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Next up, Mr. Chamberlain, is Taste Bud Farms LLC, which is applying for a micro business license and therefore was expedited based upon license type. Please go ahead.
The applicant here is Taste Bud Farms LLC. The proposed location is 70 Wilbur Street, Unit 2, located in Lowell, Massachusetts. They're seeking a microbusiness license, and this applicant received expedited review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much. I have a request from Commissioner Stebbins for an additional condition on this license, specifically prior to final application for licensure, review logo for compliance with 935 CMR 500.1054A1. Any comments on that, Commissioner Stebbins?
Nope.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or requests for additional comments, conditions on this license? Then can I ask Commissioner Concepcion, would you please go ahead and or please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Taste Bud Farms LLC, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioner Stebbins and Roy, or blanket condition, that is.
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let's make sure that Commissioner Concepcion made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thank you. Next up, Mr. Chamberlain, is the Dutchman LLC, Tier 3 Indoor Cultivation. Please go ahead.
The applicant here is the Dutchman LLC. The proposed location is 833 Main Street, located in Southbridge, Massachusetts. They're seeking a cultivation license. This applicant received general review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration, and therefore Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you. In addition to the blanket condition Commissioner Roy has requested on all provisional licenses, Commissioner Roy also has an additional requested condition. Specifically, prior to final licensure, please identify and inform the Commission of your additional operational plans for indoor and outdoor marijuana cultivators as it relates to quality control samples in accordance with 935 CMR 500.12014, whereas a marijuana cultivator may provide a quality control sample of marijuana flower to its employees for the purpose of ensuring product quality and determining whether to make the product available to sell. All quality control samples provided by a marijuana cultivator under 935 CMR 500.12014 shall be assigned a unique sequential alphanumeric identifier and entrance seed sale tracking system in a form and manner to be determined by the Commission, and further shall be designated as a quality control sample. Are there any other comments, questions, or requests for additional conditions on this license? Then could I ask Commissioner Roy, would you please make a motion to approve staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to the Dutchman LLC, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Could I ask Commissioner Stebbins, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let's make sure that Commissioner Roy made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Stebbins. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thank you. Next up, Mr. Chamberlain, the Grateful Mind LLC for retail. Please go ahead.
Yep, the applicant here is the Grateful Mind LLC. The proposed location is 15 Bank Street, located in Wellfleet, Massachusetts. They're seeking a retail license, and this applicant received general review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration, and therefore Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much. Aside from Commissioner Roy's request for a blanket condition on all provisional licenses, I have a request from Commissioner Stebbins for an additional condition on this license. Specifically, prior to final application for licensure, contact CCC Licensing Division for an update to confirm your training and recruitment partners' eligibility to support your activities. Are there any other questions or comments or requests for additional conditions on this license? Then could I ask Commissioner Stebbins, would you please make a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to the Grateful Mind LLC subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioner Stebbins and Roy?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Camargo, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Stebbins made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Mr. Chamberlain, are we done, or are there any other provisional licenses to be considered at this point in time?
Mr. Chairman, that is all for today.
Well, then, my thanks as always. I really appreciate not just your being here today, but all the work that goes behind it, both in terms of your preparation and obviously the rest of the licensing team. So thank you for that. Is it too early to ask whether we're going to be graced by your company next month?
As long as nothing changes, I believe you will be.
Okay, we'll look forward to that. But thank you so much for your efforts and for the entire team.
Likewise, and thank you all very much as well.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Derek.
Okay, we are done with the licensing part of our agenda. There's one more topic, which is commission discussion and vote. And as I mentioned, in keeping with both good practice and commission policy, we're going to have a discussion review of minutes from previous executive sessions and determine whether the rationale for withholding them is still applicable. There are 3 sets of minutes from previous executive sessions that have been withheld that we need to consider whether to continue to withhold or not. I want to give my thanks to our commission secretary, Commissioner Stebbins, as well as Christopher Smith for your leadership on this. Christopher, are you with us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
How are you?
I can't complain. How about you?
Well, you always can complain. You just chose not to.
Right, but I'm not going to today.
Okay. Thank you. Unless there are any questions or comments from the commissioners in general on this topic, what I'd like to do is ask Christopher to go through each of the 3 sets of minutes and make a recommendation on whether we should release them or continue to withhold them and the rationale for that recommendation. And then we'll take one vote, unless there's a difference of opinion, we'll take one vote on all 3 at the end of the conversation. Is that okay with the commission? And Christopher, you okay to proceed on that basis?
Sure, absolutely.
Then if you wouldn't mind, please go ahead and start with the first set of minutes.
Sure. The first set of minutes is from July 9th, 2020. The commission entered executive session under Purpose 3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position. And we went into the executive session to finalize the terms of a settlement agreement between the commission and SEIU relating to a complaint filed under a now expired collective bargaining agreement. So the commission, the recommendation is to withhold these minutes. The commission will soon be engaging in discussions with a labor organization, and release of the minutes could present a detriment to the effect on the commission's collective bargaining position. So therefore, the recommendation is to withhold under the Purpose 3.
Thank you very much, Christopher. Before we move on to the second set of minutes, any questions for Christopher or comments or thoughts? Okay, Christopher, would you go on to the second set of minutes, please?
Absolutely. On October 8th, 2020, the commission entered executive session under Purpose 7, which is to comply with an act under the authority of a general or special law that requires confidentiality The commission entered executive session to discuss Canatech medicinals and documents subject to the protective order issued in the Correa trial. The recommendation is to continue withholding those because the protective order is still in effect, so those documents are still subject to heightened confidentiality.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on the second set of executive session minutes that we're discussing? Okay, thank you. Christopher, go ahead, please, with the third set.
And the third set is from November 19th, 2020. Similarly, the commission entered executive session under Purpose 7 in conjunction with the protective order issued in the Correa trial. The commission discussed nature's medicine, agricultural healing, and Northeast alternatives, and documents related and protected by the protective order. Given the protective order is largely still in place, the recommendation is to withhold in order to continue protecting the heightened confidentiality of those documents.
Thank you, Christopher. Are there any questions or comments or concerns on staff's recommendation? Then, Christopher, if you wouldn't mind, could you propose motion language that would allow us to continue withhold these three sets of minutes?
Sure. We would request that the commission move to approve the recommendation of the general counsel's office to continue withholding the three sets of minutes that were identified and based on the reasoning contained in that recommendation.
Thank you very much, Christopher. Before I ask for a motion, that motion, or any last questions or comments?
Nice job.
Then could I ask, as Commission Secretary, Commissioner Stebbins, would you please make the motion that Christopher requested?
So moved.
Thank you. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Stebbins made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Concepcion. Commissioner Camargo, your vote, please.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Aye. Let the record show that the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Concepcion, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. Thank you very much, and Christopher, thank you so much for your leadership and help on this. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And next time you have to be on camera. I don't know why you weren't on camera.
Oh, I'm not?
Well, I don't know. It's just my screen. My screen might be different than everybody else's.
Christopher, come on camera. Say hi. Say hi.
I have the camera on.
Okay, it just might be the way things are showing up on the screen. But anyway, thank you, Christopher.
Absolutely.
Can we go to the next slide, please? Which is there a next slide?
No.
There should be some about scheduling. Yeah. So can we go through upcoming meetings, please? Okay, so our next meeting is 4 weeks exactly from today, given that February is a short month. So March 10th, we are still meeting remotely, and it will be at 10 a.m. For the edification public. If we go to the next slide, our long-term plans for meetings are as follows. Please understand that these dates are tentative and subject to change, but this is our proposed schedule for the remainder of the year. There being no further business before the commission, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn. Before I accept that motion, I would like to say, well, this was a pretty efficient and short meeting. Don't get used to it. But anyway, thank you as always to all the hard work on part of staff to get us ready for this, as well as my fellow commissioners who, by your questions, comments, and conditions, make it absolutely clear how much time and diligence you each invest in going through each of the applications and the other materials. So thank you for that.
Chairman, we're trying to give you a smooth ride for the next few months.
Yeah, we'll see about that, but thank you very much, Commissioner Camargo.
No promises.
Yeah, I wouldn't believe them even if they were made, Commissioner Concepcion. There being no further business for the commission, can I ask for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay.
Thank you. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Concepcion made the motion to adjourn, seconded by Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Camargo, your vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Thank you. And just so there's no problem with the minutes next month, Commissioner Hoffman votes aye. Let the record show the motion was approved by a vote of 5 in favor. Commissioners Camargo, Conception, Roy, Stebbins, and Hoffman with none opposed. And we are adjourned as of 12:27 p.m. on February 10th, 2022. Thank you, and everybody be safe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye, bye.